It's like today we remember that the Haftarah, the Rebbe always used to cry the first day on Rosh Hashanah, most of the times. And every time was in a different point. That year, the Rebbe cried every time it said the word Chan in the Haftarah. You saw it was praised by the Rebbe in the Haftarah. And just nice we didn't ever understand. Also, B'Shas, in davening or master, we heard the fire rangers came to 770. And later we saw, after davening, that the Rebbe Zechana had a chair staying with the sukkahs now. There was a fire there, and the whole chair got burned. It was also very funny. Later, Vov Tishrei, on Shabbos Vov, in those days, there wasn't a room for the bochim. There was a chazaka, but not so much. Who should say first, or second, third on the line. The first row of bochim had to be a whole night, Friday night and Sunday. We stood in the second row. So also we had who stood in first and second and third. We had to come 5 o'clock in the morning. And we came many times in the morning, 5 o'clock. I remember we used to come 5 in the morning, years before yet. I remember me and Rebbe Shapiro from Florida, we used to come and learn. Rebbe used to come 6 o'clock in the morning in the Zalans on 70 and watched us, looked on the watch and looked on us, and looked around all the benches, the bochum that are sleeping on the benches and so forth. That Shabbos, I also came around 5:30 on Sunday. There was a few bochum there, very strong, but Leviton from Seattle. And there was Rimla was there. And there was like a person labeled Brendel. It was an older bacha. And as soon as they came, they told me that just now, Mrs. Wiener came from the Rebbe's mother's house and came crying a little bit that the Rebbe's mother fell off the bed. And someone should be an idea the Rebbe what happened. So labeled Brendel, since he was an older person, he ran to the Rebbe's house to give it over. So Bochum was thinking, is the Rebbe going to verbring today or not? Some held the Rebbe not going to verbring. The pale, the Rebbe verbracht. Now when he verbracht, he said a deep mimer, the Hemshef von Erbe Keach. It's a beer and ein beis. Rosh Hashanah was the beginning of the Hemshef, Zeh Hayim. And Shir Hamaylis was on Shabbos Shuvah and Kesser. Gittin L'chav was on Shabbos. The second day, Sukkot, the second night of Sukkot. And it was a special verbringen, and you saw in the Zichronos in the Rebbe's verbringen, he spoke about the Zman that were now. Rebbe spoke in Vayelech, it says in Medrash that the way that Moshe Rabbeinu go, the Moshe Rabbeinu went based open, he went to a yeshiva to learn. Why does Moshe have to go to learn? Moshe knew Kol HaTerkula and he was a Muslim. But now he knew it's Mei Be'es Mishana comes today, and it has to be the Histalkus. So there has to be a new type of dinim. The Moshe Rabbeinu went to learn the dinim. There's a herod before Pesach, before Rosh Hashanah, or a Rav Paskin a Shaila before he Paskin, even though he Paskin many times, he has to look in Shulchan. And he told the story of the Rebbe Harashab that he was once in the city, and they didn't know who he is, but inside a tira poem that they saw on him, they knew he's a Odin Godel, they gave him maftir. And even though he said maftir every Shabbos in the Lubavitch, and on Friday night, all the Rebbeim, of course, Mavis Seder, the Haftarah, and that's when he went in the second room and looked over the maftir. And there's a Mesh's man there. He didn't do it on the spot, he went to the second room. So this all shows that before you do something, but Rabbim, you have to look it over. And even from a Pnimi, and the Rebbe Hashabi used to call it the Pnimis, that's what it says, Vayelech, Moshe Rabbeinu went. The Rebbe Hashabi could have looked it over in the room, he went to a second room. Because you had to do it in the Pnimis, look into it. The same thing, the Rebbe spoke over here. So the Sichel was also a modern, but later we saw it in the hospital, the Rebbe asked him everything, V'shteit Zichronos is the Arab, whoever's asking me, people told him, this kid didn't. It says in Zichronos, did you look in Zichronos, and so forth. And the Shabbos after, he also spoke about it. And he also spoke the Sikha from Maneche Aster. The Rebbe cried a few times in the Sikh, and the second time very much. That the first time he cried, and he spoke about that the Rebbe said about the Teichach, and he heard the Teichach from somebody else, that the father said it's go anders. The Rebbe spoke about Gametz Aster Aster. When a person knows he's sick, it's one Hester. When a person doesn't know that he's sick, he doesn't do anything about it, it's a second Hester. Even though the Hester is so big, but so it's Vanechi Aster. In the Hester is the Anechi, is the Etem, that hiding Gilu. That in time he comes out and becomes from a high place. Aber es kommt durch, kann es ruhig kapuya, the Rebbe said. And when the Torah comes out, when surely come out, Begoli also B'Shitei. And then he cried very much about Nechi Aster Aster, and that the biggest Hester is the Anechi. And then we went to Chazad the Maimer, and then we heard that the Rebbe went in the ambulance, and the Rebbe went with Mrs. Khan. They went to the hospital, so everybody ran away from Chazad the Maimer. We all ran to the hospital. In the hospital, the Rebbe looked a few times. He said, "What I'm doing is not for bringing, but they're pushing here." The Rebbe cried much in the hospital. He looked in the window, couldn't even look on the situation. But he said, "Oh, he should use a feather." Another time, the feather, give a needle to see if it is still in the chayes. And later, everybody heard that it was the Histalkus, and then they came home. There was many things in the house, certain things of Agnes and Nefesh, but also the Rebbe said, there's a meaning to keep straw under her head. So the older Chassidim, the Chabad Kaddish, so when you get straw at night, so they told you, so man geht to a Michlan across the street, a rascal, and take a broom. Years ago, the brooms were made out of straw, and tear up the broom, and have straw. And Rebbe did not want to go out of the house, wanted to stay there. And the older Chassidim, Zalman Duchmas, Persi, is the Rebbe to go home. She said, they're all going to take away stuff from here. So the Rebbe, he said he's ready to stay here. She is Rebbe Duchman to stay there. And Beryl Yunik said he'll also be there. And they'll watch the house, the Rebbe should be able to go home. The morning the Rebbe came to 770, he said, all the Kadeshim from the end of davening, the Rebbe cried a lot. Then the Rebbe went home. On the way home, we followed the Rebbe home. We saw Yosef Goldstein outside, taking a movie, and the Rebbe made him with his hand to the movie camera. Yosef Goldstein told me after that, even though the Rebbe made him with his hand, he still continued the movie because by the future of the Baya, the Rebbe made him also with his hand. And later the Rebbe wanted to see the movie. And when the Rebbe came out of the house, he said who should go close to meet the only people that went to a mikveh in the morning, and the other one should stay far away. And by Levi itself, the Rebbe cried very strongly about the Kaddish, and also he has Bachim, what Bachim doing here, what Bachim pushing, and so forth and so forth. That's why the Bachim later made a chlukas from Mishnayos many times over until Yom Kippur. And they gave over to the Rebbe that the Bachim made so much times. A chlukas from Mishnayos, Rebbe like Anachas Ruach, Agresh Anachas Ruach, Agresh Anachas Ruach. The Bachim wanted to take away a little bit the payday that the Rebbe mentioned a few times, what are Bachim doing here or doing there. The main thing we learned from this whole thing, that even Shabbos, when the Rebbe's mother, how tired the Rebbe was to his mother, when he verbracht the whole Shabbos, when people thought he's not going to verbring. And Yom Kippur, when he came back, he said, Shiva in 2-3 days. Yom Kippur, when he came back, it was a Birchas Abonim. He went downstairs and he had a Baruch Tzanash. A few people complained to Rabbi Chadukah. They didn't hear the bracha because when the Rebbe came down, there was a small crowd. They went the second time on the table and said the bracha, and so forth. And we all know and also how the Rebbe's mother worried about the Rebbe very much. And he asked not to verbring so late at night. So there was a year of Chabdal, of Chabgimel, the Rebbe did not verbring his family to very late at night. After Vov Tishrei, the Rebbe started verbring again late at night. So they said then that the Rebbe's mother had Agnes Nefet, he doesn't watch his health for being so late at night. And the Rebbe's mother was so close to the Bachim. A lot of Bachim owed their big shaykhs the shlichis, and when they were on shlichis, she told the Rebbe about she read the papers, and the Rebbe brought her the papers by the Bochum. She had hanor from her Bochum, and even me, she should stop every once in a while in Kingston Avenue to buy a balamuk, buy a little and put it by the door, and pick up a package of Michal Raskin and put it by the door. How she felt close, she always mentioned me about Germany, what I scared people, I saw a nail. She was so friendly and so elegant to everybody that she knew. And even the Shabbos after that, the Rebbe spoke about, the Rebbe wanted you should daven at tefillah even after the Yom Kippur, one tefillah in the house, because in Shiva, even though Yom Kippur stops it, the neshama is still on it. Then the next Shabbat, the Rebbe gave a hemshech in Vayeler, there was a shaila, was Yom Tishrei. First Kaddish comes before the person that says Kaddish after the Rebbe, Hamarash, Yom Tishrei, or his Kaddish if it was a mother. So even though the person that says Kaddish could have in mind also the other thing, but people they hear wouldn't know. The Rebbe said, I brought it from the Rebbe Chashab, that a Rebbe doesn't need our Kaddish. We need the Kaddish. So maybe the Rebbe is not the cover from the Rebbe, it's the person who needs the Kaddish. So the person that says Kaddish could have in mind two things, and especially if it's in the middle of Shiva or Shleishim, so there's a dingdim that he should say the Kaddish. And then he could have in mind, even from Yud Gimel Tishrei also. So this is what we learned from Vov Tishrei, how much the Rebbe discusses to Chassidim and all the Ma'amodim Matzavim he verbracht Shabbos. They were long, until the second, until his mother called him, then he ran. He put on his coat, we were watching, he had to Mincha upstairs, the Rebbe put on his coat, but Mamish by the door, he ran down the steps and almost ran the whole way with the eunuch to the house.